And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. I tell you what, why does that David James do that? I roll in here in a perfectly good mood, and I spend, 4 minutes with David James, and all of a sudden I'm angry. Not at David, but at the subject matter.
Good at finding
You know what I mean?
things. Yeah.
And I'm not even angry about something for myself. I'm angry, for another person, which is also weird.
Right.
I shouldn't actually care.
Right. You've adopted anger for somebody else.
Right, which is not good.
Anger by proxy.
What's that line in The Wire? That's your fault for caring when it's not your turn. Now, the language was a little more colorful than that, but that's really the point, right? I shouldn't care. It's not my turn. That's not my turn to care about that, which is actually the best thing about not being a program director. There were a lot of things I loved about being a program director, but that is one of the upsides. It's that's not my turn to care about that. It's Nate's turn or Lloyd's turn.
Yeah. Lloyd's not the program director. Or Lloyd's the program director.
Yeah,
Nate's
I should
not
say.
the
But
program
Nate,
director.
I more meant management. I had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine who's kicking butt and is not. He was managing like a crazy amount of people, and now he has a new role, and he's not. And management's a thing. It's hard and it's a skill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's quite literally your job to care about everything under your purview. You know what I mean? Which is in Lloyd's case, how many cats work at this station?
Yeah. And I should note, Nate is the program director because Nate oversees everything.
Yeah, Nate's the head of KSL Sports.
He does have to be the program
That's
director.
why
also.
I correct it to more management. Because the stuff about being a program director, that specific job, the creative stuff and the, imaging and direction and all that sort of thing, I loved all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I didn't like having to tell Gordon Monson what to do.
I believe that. Sure.
You know what I really hated about it? And here's why management is such a skill. I hated, and I worked in a place where, the economy wasn't good, things just weren't going well. And so I had to take bad news from up here, Ben.
Yeah.
And then I had to walk downstairs. I still remember the stairs well. And then go into a room full of the zaniest people you've ever met in your entire life and deliver that bad news.
Yeah.
It's this part of the job really stinks.
Yeah, I believe that.
Which, you know what, is part of the reason, and not to get too off track, but I do like working for Bonneville Media. And no shame on those guys I was working for at the time. Times were tough.
Yeah, right.
But I love working for Bonneville Media. It's great. The people we get to work with and for here are truly terrific. So makes you grateful for present things, Lloyd aside, of course.
I, in my several stops before, have seen a lot of the most talented people in those buildings end up here, which is a good sign, myself excluded.
Yeah,
but,
right.
it was like
that's
the
totally
best
true.
of the other buildings I've been in.
Yeah.
They work here, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Shout out Sue Kelly.
So there you go. I was in a bad mood because of David James, and now I'm appreciative for what I have.
Yeah.
So that's a better place to be.
Shout out Rusty Keys.
Where do you want to go now, Ben? Anger?
No.
Happiness? Joy?
What was neither you or I are huge uniform guys or team name guys. But
so anger then is where you want to go.
Well, it is pretty monumental, what the team is going to be called. It is a big deal. It is an identity setter. I told you my late uncle's girlfriend was in town from Japan. Speaks very little English. We drove by the Delta Center. She saw the jazz note. She goes, "Oh, Utah Jazz."
Yeah.
Names really do matter.
Uh-huh.
And the Utah Yeti thing falling apart is pretty shocking. It was pretty striking because, we've talked to Cole on the air, Cole Bagley, our Utah Hockey Club insider. Even last week when some of this news was coming out about Yeti coolers, and then the not a lawsuit, but going to court and basically saying like, hey, it's going to be too confusing for people if there's a hockey team. He still thought that Utah Yeti was going to be the name. And everybody I have talked to behind the scenes had kind of thought like, yeah, it'll get figured out. Yeti's going to be the name. It's going to get figured out. Like it was the front runner so early and so far ahead of everything else. It's pretty stunning that collapsed. And I don't think it's anyone's fault. I just think it's one of those things that happened. I think Ryan Smith threw out that name really early on Pat McAfee. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. It's a good name. The color scheme works. It's mountainous. It has a good mascot. There's a lot of great things built into it. I like the symmetry of Utah being 4 letters and Yeti being 4 letters. It fits with the modern movement of hockey teams like the Kraken having these mythical creatures. It just felt like a great fit. So for it to collapse, I think was pretty shocking to me.
I guess I don't disagree with all of that, just most of it.
Okay.
The reason that your uncle's girlfriend
Yeah.
recognized that logo has nothing to do with if it's a cool name.
No, totally agree.
Zero.
No, I totally agree.
Zero to do with. Now, your point, you're saying names matter, but then you're talking about why Yeti is a good name or bad name or why this is devastating or not devastating and all that stuff absolutely does not matter in the slightest. Here's let me think of the reason that she recognized Utah Jazz is because Karl Malone and John Stockton made it cool.
Yes.
Made it cool.
Yeah.
And in fact, the accidental good decision of not changing a name when the franchise moved, because the name makes no sense at all. Although I have been to the Jazz Festival a number of times downtown in the summertime, and it is absolutely awesome. But jazz music doesn't have anything to do with this community in the slightest. And actually, not changing the name makes it kind of cool.
Agreed.
Because you don't identify it actually with the music. People who identify it's identified with basketball. And in fact, if it's not really part of the community, I think I could argue actually works in its favor. But the point is that it's not recognizable because it's a cool name. It's recognizable because John and Karl made it cool. And actually, cool is not the right word because to most of the sports community, John and Karl were heels. They weren't cool. Karl wanted to be cool his whole career.
Yeah.
His whole career. He was dying for it. It's why he did the wrestling and all that stuff. And it's like, dude, your die was cast a long time ago. People don't think you're cool. People think you're the person, you're the mountain that Michael Jordan has to top. You know, that's your role. That's your role in the story. But that's why she recognized Utah Jazz. And so not having the Yeti is not devastating. Get over it. Here's where I would further the conversation because I obviously have a giant ego.
Did I use the word devastating? Jake's now said the word devastating.
No, sorry.
Like 6 times like I'm in tears over here. I said it was shocking. I'm not sure.
Devastating, shocking. Let's split hairs.
Surprise is one thing. Devastated is like implies a sadness, which I do not have.
I wasn't thinking about you when I was using that word. Sorry. I don't mean to imply that.
You just said it a lot of times. I don't feel devastated.
I don't mean to imply that Ben's in tears over
Did I spend $8,000 on Utah Yeti gear? Yes. Did I put my family in financial ruin? Maybe.
Listen.
So yes, I'm devastated.
I obviously have a huge ego and love telling people what to do. So I'm going to do just that. But let me put this preface out there that Ryan Smith and his philosophy in life has made him multiple $billion. Yeah. Now ask me, Ben, how many my philosophy in life? How much has that made me? How many billions?
How many billions?
Zero.
Yeah, how short of a billion are you? About $1 billion.
About $1 billion.
Yeah.
And I will let you know if I get there. So, far be it from me to tell somebody who's obviously smarter than me what to do.
Yeah.
But if he did come to me for advice and ask advice on anything, I would tell him that I know that taking surveys has made you billions of dollars. I know that philosophy that you obviously really buy into has made you an incredible amount of money and has served a lot of companies very well. But when it comes to running a sports franchise, crowdsourcing doesn't work. And you know what does work is you show strong leadership, you enable talented people, and then you tell the crowd to get bent if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Because your team is going to make whatever it is. They could be the Utah Clown Show. And if they win a Stanley Cup, the Clown Show is going to be the coolest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how cool the Bozo the Clown uniforms would look, those sweaters? Can you imagine they'd sell a zillion?
Yeah.
If they could just win some hockey games and have some players with some personality to boot, would absolutely help. I could tell you that I think the Chicago Bulls logo is dumb. It's simple. It's just some red, stupid bull that's poorly drawn. 99 out of 100 sports fans will tell you that logo is cool.
Yeah, great logo.
And it has nothing to do with the great logo. It has everything to do with the team making it cool. And I get that you want people to have ownership, you know, like, oh, you're a part of this franchise. You get to vote. Well, the truth is most people don't even believe their vote counts anyway. And so, just make a decision and then win and make it cool. You know, create a great fan experience where people want to identify. They already want to identify with whatever. So just get over it.
I agree that Ryan Smith is extraordinarily democratic. And I don't mean liberal. I don't mean a Democrat. I mean, he's democratic. I mean, he likes the idea of everybody having a say.
It's why he created his company. That's what I'm saying. I get it.
Yeah.
That's
like,
his philosophy.
And that is his philosophy. And you're right. I wonder if he would benefit himself at times by just saying, like, no, this is the decision. And you can make it with a board of people behind the scenes. He does want to broaden the scope to let people in. So I'll further my advice. He needs to channel, and I'm looking for it, Ben. Maybe you can tell me. What's the name of Glenn Close's character in The Devil Wears Prada? It's not Glenn Close.
Oh, it's not
Meryl Streep.
Oh, it's Meryl Streep. That's right. Okay. What's her?
The Devil.
I've only seen this movie once.
Yeah, her name's The Devil.
No, what's her name? Miranda something. Yeah. Miranda Priestley, not Glenn Close. Meryl Streep. I don't know. I get them confused.
A rose by any other name. You can just mix and match names. It doesn't matter, right?
Meryl Streep.
What we're learning in this
What's her name? Miranda what?
Priestley.
Miranda Priestley. Remember when she said, "You don't know what you like. I tell you what you like."
Yeah.
He needs to channel that and just have a little confidence. Pick something and say, "You know what? I don't care what you like. I'm going to tell you what you like. It's my job to employ people in marketing and creative and all this sort of thing to come up with something that I'm confident in, that I think is going to be really cool, and I'm going to tell you to like it." And people are eventually going to like it.
Yes, I agree with that. I think sometimes we get precious at the beginning of things without realizing that really what has to happen is it just has to get baked in. To your point, it doesn't matter what the Bulls logo looks like. But over 20 years with some success on the court, everybody likes the Bulls logo.
No, they could never go away from it.
The truth is, the Utah Jazz original logo that everyone loves was probably the cheapest option that some guy was hired off the street and just drew it together.
Right.
And now we're precious about, like, the brilliance of it. It's like, well, one of the Z's is the wrong shape. It's a different size than all the different letters. It doesn't make any sense. The original Jazz basketball note that was the actual music note, the J on it, is so wonky on the original, but we're like, it's great. It's like, no, somebody who actually wasn't that good at their job probably did the first one.
I guarantee the origin story is something funny like
a guy got paid $400, which felt like $1,000, $2,000 back then, but like it was nothing. Yeah, it was a bad design, and they just said, like, fine. I've seen 500 logos. I hate them all. We're taking this one.
I bet it was something like this. Sam Battistone's executive vice president's spouse has had some graphic design underclass work.
At night.
Yeah, right. And she or he, it doesn't matter, drew all this up. And okay, we're going with it. Cool. It's a note like Jazz. Got it.
I had
Let's
this
run.
exact experience
So
last
funny.
week. I went to the Pee Wee documentary I told you about Sundance.
Yeah.
His whole like color scheme of his set was pastels. And they're talking to the guy like, why'd you choose pastels? He's like, I was broke. And what happened? I had a bunch of white paint. So what happens when you mix color with white paint? It becomes pastel. It's like it was not this brilliant artist decision to be like, let's be pastel colored here. It's like we didn't have money. So we mixed everything with white and it lightened every color. That's it. And like it's iconic because we've seen it forever, not because somebody was like, this is going to be iconic in 20 years. So I am totally with you. While I am shocked, albeit not devastated, that the Utah Yeti name did not come through, whether it's the Utah Wasatch, the Utah Hockey Club, or the Utah Mammoth, 20 years from now, as long as this team is still in Utah, it's going to be beloved that the name was, and we're going to look back and laugh at the idea that like, oh, it was almost the Utah Wasatch, or it was almost the Utah Yeti, or almost the Utah whatever. That actually, in the long run, does not matter.
But here's something I'm learning about my life's philosophy, is I am becoming impatient with wasted energy. Okay. And I realize that I'm expressing an incredible amount of energy to get across the point that I'm done with wasted energy. And this sort of crap, I'm just done with it. I just don't have I mean, I know they want people to go to the games and vote and knock yourself out. But I am not going to get bent out of shape about this sort of stuff ever. I'm alive enough to remember when the Buzz got sued by Georgia Tech and had to give up that name to take the Stingers, which was still a insect flying with but they couldn't use the Buzz, but they could use the Stingers, but they could still sell it for a movie. I don't know. And then Larry Miller bought the team, and Larry Miller said, we're gonna make it the Bees. Now, do you remember why Larry Miller picked the Bees?
Why?
Because they were the Bees when he was a kid, and he had warm feelings warm memories about the Bees when he was a child. And that's what he said when he rebranded the team, the Bees. Yeah. And you know what is an extremely popular name around here?
Yeah.
The Bees.
The Bees. It's fine.
It's not because the Bees is a rad name. It's because the same reason Larry Miller went back to it. It's because people associate it with that ballpark.
Going to the ballpark. Yeah, taking the kids.
Experience.
Yeah, right.
And what happened when you were a kid and you snuck down and got the good seats by the dugout and the nice ball boy pitched you a ball and it's still on your whatever, you know? That's why you love the Bees.
Yeah.
I love it now how people are like, I kind of like Utah Hockey Club. It's like, yeah, because you got to know the team.
Right, and everyone thought it was weird.
And now you kind of like it.
Yeah, it does just have to get baked in. It just has to bake into a community.
So the marketers over there probably don't want to hear this, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, I heard people bagging on Wasatch. What's a Wasatch? You know, somewhere the Wasatch Beer Company is like, hey, why are we taking strays?
Yeah, right.
Wasatch is a rad name.
Yeah. And there is precedent. The Rockies have the name. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of reasons you could have all of these all of these names. There are reasons for all of them, and they're all equally fine.
People could easily look at the Kraken and go, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
You know? But they don't. They make it cool. They lean in. What does the Raptor have to do with Toronto? It has way more to do with Utah than it does Toronto, but those fans are into it.
All the classics.
Ask Drake if he hates that's the one, right? It's not. Yeah. Well, I just confused Meryl Streep for Glenn Close, so I got to make sure I get my pop culture references correct. But if you ask Drake, said, hey, do you want to get rid of that name, the Raptors, and become the Canadians or something? He'd be like, no.
No, it's our team name.
No, we're the Raptors.
Vince Carter. It's
Exactly.
to see the logo on Vince. Yeah, right. It's going to be that Logan Cooley gets them to the Western Conference Finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs, more so that it's going to be that we got the right decision with Mammoth over Wasatch over Utah Hockey Club.
So if I am Ryan, getting back to the advice, I'd say, why am I wasting the energy over this? Come up with something I like. We'll do a press conference, and we'll get to work.
Yeah.
And you know what? The people are going to love it because we're going to put out a great product and a great experience, and those kids are going to go home, and when we pick our fuchsia and brown color, they're going to go, Mom, buy me some fuchsia and brown. We got to support the team. Like, we have some friends. My wife's friend, Jenny, from Minnesota, went to college here, moved back to Minnesota, married a dude who's like a Vikings fan. Like we don't miss a second of Vikings football, Vikings fan. Do you think he cares for 1 second that he looks like a moron walking around in purple and yellow of all things?
Yeah, right. Right.
Purple and yellow?
Yeah.
I love both those colors, but together? Purple and yellow?
Yeah. Designed to clash.
But he's into it because he loves the team.
Yeah.
So let's stop wasting energy, Ben. Should we waste more time talking about it?
No, I think we're good. I think we know what the jerseys are going to look
glad-
like. The color scheme's not going to change.
I'm glad that you are on board with the I don't care factor.
I have a preference. I like the Mammoth more, but if it's either of the other two, I think it'll be great.
And you're not really a fan of the team because it's not your job. But trust me, I see so much of the baby blue and black and white, driving around town. People are into it, whatever.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, I personally love Carolina blue. It's one of my very favorite colors, and I think it always works. You know what works with yellow? Carolina blue. You know what Jazz color scheme I personally liked? I liked the the baby blues or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
Everybody hated that uniform to the moon and back. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. People hate this last iteration of Jazz jerseys, not these new ones with the mountains, but people hated the old ones, the black, the yellow, and the white. I kind of liked them. Larry Markkinen liked them, whatever. That doesn't matter. If the Jazz had gone to the conference finals in those, people would like them.
Would love them.
People would like them. They would. If Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert got to the finals in the yellow jersey that they stopped wearing because they thought they were losing games because they were wearing yellow jerseys, people would love those goldish yellow note jerseys. They would.
Yeah. Not to be repetitive, but people hated the purple that they loved so much.
John Stockton did.
Yeah. John hated it. Carl hated it.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's the Jazz note on their number retired in the rafters because they said, don't put that ugly purple crap anywhere near my number. And then they say, yeah, but you won your most games when you're wearing I don't want to be associated with it.
Yep.
Now, every other jersey in that arena is the purple every night. All right, stay tuned. Top 3 stories coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
ESPN has a how this is going to play out all the way up until the college football playoff of 2025. This is your ultimate way too early. Your number 3 seed in the college football playoff for next year is the University of Utah.
What?
Hey now.
No.
Yeah, why not?
The Utes?
New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new you. Literally, new you. The crazy thing about this is that I have no argument against it. Why would you make an argument that Utah couldn't be in that conversation? And I know BYU fans out there are pshawing, but you were in the same spot last year.
The Utah offense scores as many touchdowns as New Mexico did last year. How much different would their season have looked? They have a lot of recent success when they play complementary football. When that offense is up to the task, combined with that defense, they win a lot. I could see it happening.
Stop. I don't want to get your hopes and dreams up.
I'm making a case.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.